SCP-1879, an SCP Tale by John Hudson, based on the original concept by azzleflux, licensed under CC by SA. Part 2 Professional Loser. The blacked-out Foundation SUV sped down Interstate 82 at breakneck speeds, its built-in sirens flashing the other vehicles out of the way. Amore was in the driver's seat, with Steve next to him monitoring 1879-02's location on his laptop. Thray and Dustin were in the back seat, unnerved by Amore's unrestrained use of the gas pedal. Of the four, Amore was the only one who looked relatively comfortable in a tactical vest. So, said Dustin, fidgeting with the straps on his vest, unable to achieve a comfortable fit. You'll see the last episode of Nicky Knows Last Night, really? Scolded Amore. First ping in 18 years, and you? Can we please focus a little? Yeah, Dustin. Harp Steve, adding under his breath, that show sucks anyway. Local police dispatch received a call, Amore said, ignoring Steve. 1879-02 showed up in a Tilda Green's house this morning. She called into 911 when it refused her commands to leave. From the sounds of things, she's an older lady, and she's very confused by the anomaly's presence. You think it's related to the house that disappeared with a baby 2 days ago? Dustin asked. Foundation has another MTF on that one unless they confirm it to be 1879, replied Amore. If it is, they'll pass it down to us. This is your exit, up here, said Steve. Amore crossed 3 lanes onto the exit ramp, the other 3 passengers gripping onto whatever they could. Containment is priority, continued Amore. As always, bag and tag. Do not engage this thing in conversation. Thray, Dustin, I need you two to detain the homeowner and get her safely away from 1879-02. There are amnestics in the back. Once the situation is contained, I'll need you to administer them to Mrs. Green. Steve and I will handle the anomaly directly. This is exciting, Dustin exclaimed. Will I? Appreciate your enthusiasm, Dustin, stuttered Amore, wondering again how he wound up being transferred to row 4. Should be 3 blocks down, and on the left, said Steve. Hey, Amore, Thray leaned forward from the back seat. Did you really single-handedly recontain SCP-096? Steve and Thray both turned to Amore, who got the impression that they'd been discussing his Foundation record with each other. Yes, said Amore, before adding after it slaughtered my entire unit. Everyone sat in silence for the rest of the drive. Now be reasonable, Mrs. Green, said the salesman as he held up a chrome-clad gadget in front of her. This here is the deal you've been waiting for. Never again are you going to get an opportunity like this. Please, Tilda pleaded, rubbing her forehead. Won't you just leave? It would be an absolute crime to leave without sealing this deal for you. I don't want. Mrs. Green, the salesman interrupted her. Mrs. Green. Mrs. Green. Mrs. Green, he said, lowering his tone and tempo a little more each successive time he said her name. Do you even know what this is? He raised the appliance up slightly in front of her. Tilda looked down at the item, then back up at the salesman, shaking her head reluctantly. Why? No wonder you're so hesitant. This, here, is what's going to jumpstart my new venture, and what's going to give you an entirely new meaning to domestic bliss. Mrs. Green, this is the azzleflux 2-in-1 toaster, and coffee brewer Omatich 5000. A small, chrome component of the machine popped off, and fell to the floor. The salesman stood completely still, holding an obnoxiously large smile while Tilda kept alternating her gaze between him and the machine. This went on just long enough to become slightly awkward. I don't. Now, before you agree to this amazing deal, the salesman said, interrupting Tilda again. I just want you to know that this beauty is going to be yours for the amazingly low price of a view of your magnificent garden. How about it, dear? Before Tilda could answer, the front door of her house slammed open. Stop. Put it down. Amore entered the kitchen, sidearm drawn, and pointed at the salesman. Steve stood behind him, holding his laptop open. Put it down, buddy. Put the thing down. Do it now. The salesman, whose artificial smile never faded, set the appliance onto the countertop, then turned to face Amore, slowly raising his hands up. Say, fellas, do you mind? Mrs. Green and I are conducting a little business here. Thray and Dustin entered from behind Amore and Steve, walking over to Mrs. Green. Mom, said Dustin. My name is Dustin, and this is Thray. We're going to escort you outside while our friends here take care of your little pest problem. Tilda jerked her arm away from Dustin, crossing her arms and keeping her feet firmly planted where she stood. You fellas sure are a pain in my rear, you know that? The salesman was beaming, but his eyes betrayed the smile, which at this point seemed teeming with something between contempt and rage. "Steve," said Amore. "Contact Site 17. Tell them we need a mobile HQ unit dispatched so we can lock down the house and convert it into containment. Tell them we have the anomaly and one NPC in custody." "Did we bring enough amnestics to wipe the entire block?" asked Steve. "Just do it," said Amore. After thinking for a moment, he added, "Tell them to very discreetly set up in the garden out back." "My garden?" Tilda asked, concerned. "Mrs. Green, please go with my associates outside." Tilda refused Amore's request. "Not so good with the ladies, are ya, champ?" said the salesman. "Get down on the floor, and put your hands on your head." The salesman ignored Amore, cocking his head in indignation. "Mrs. Green, please go with my associates outside. This is for your protection. This thing is dangerous." Again, Tilda ignored Amore. "Say, you do realize that this is America, yeah? Mrs. Green and I are well within our rights to conduct business here. You should be ashamed of yourselves for just barging in here and keeping a hard-working, red-blooded American from. I'll take it." The room went silent, and all heads turned to look at Tilda, who held the chrome contraption in her arms. "Just leave, and I'll take it," she repeated, timidly. "All of you." The salesman's smile finally bled up into his eyes. "See, now there's a lady who knows a good deal when she sees one," the salesman exclaimed as he reached out to pat Tilda on her shoulder. "Congratulations, dear. You're one smart cookie. Now if you'll excuse me, everyone, businesses don't run themselves, and I have to be off." "Stand down," Amore barked. 1879-02 ignored him, walking over to the pantry door, and closing himself inside. Amore rushed over, and threw the pantry door open. It was empty. The silence broke as Tilda gave a sudden, shrieking scream, dropping the toaster to the floor with a loud crash. She was looking out the window to her yard, hands on her cheeks with an expression of terror. The entire garden, front and back, white picket fence and all had vanished. Her house was now completely surrounded by barren, brown dirt. Even her decoratively paved driveway had disappeared. "Well, that sucks," said Steve. Janet fell to the floor of her bedroom, trembling as the adrenaline surged through her body. Bob's right fist had solidly landed on her eye, and her balance had given out under the weight of its impact. "Stupid whore," Bob spat, rubbing his hand. He grabbed his keys off of the dresser, and went downstairs. Janet could hear the front door slam, and his car's engine start, fading away with a squeal as he drove off. Only then did the tears start to fill her eyes. She slowly crawled over to the bed, sobbing as she went. Reaching under the bed, she pulled out a small shoebox and opened it. Inside was a syringe, a rubber band, a spoon, a lighter, and a small plastic bag. 23 years of marriage, she sobbed as she tied the band around her arm. 23 years of abuse. Gone. There's no getting those years back. She spooned a substance from the bag and began heating it on the spoon with the lighter. As the fluid entered her vein, and she released the rubber band, her thoughts began to drift through those years. How she had had his child, even though she never wanted kids. How she had even gotten clean for Bob, trying to be the perfect wife. With him it was never enough to earn his love, or his faithfulness. Before unconsciousness could overtake her, there was a knock from the closet door of the bedroom. Janet's head spun as the high set in. The world felt vibrant in that moment. The knocking persisted. "Come in, Janet." "May I call you Janet?" said the salesman, as he removed his fedora, and walked into the room, closing the door behind him. "I'll say, Janet, you're looking a little green around the gills. And what's all this about 23 years you'll never get back?" "I couldn't help but overhear. Bob, he left." Janet pointed slowly at the door of the bedroom, her finger swaying over to point at the salesman. "You're in my home?" The salesman sat down next to Janet, propping his back against the foot of her bed. "Oh. Well, this Bob sure sounds like a commie fool. A real man provides for his family, I say. That's why I'm here today, Mrs. Janet. I'm starting a new venture. I think if you want those years back, you have to take them back. Show Bob and the world that you mean business." "How?" Janet had meant to inquire again as to how this man was in her home, but was drifting off and couldn't quite formulate the words. "I'm glad you asked, Janet." The salesman procured a 6-chamber revolver from his pocket. "With this here Ruger GP100, you can show Bob." The salesman's voice slowed and lowered as he leaned into Janet. "That you mean business?" Janet stared at the gun as he held its grip towards her. 23 years, Janet? What does 23 years of your time truly mean to you? The salesman smiled.
Hey guys, John here with Forgotten Tales of the SCP. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and I will see you all for the epic conclusion of my everything.